Hi everyone. Excuse me. Normally when we are in school, I would take a day and have explain number one and have all of you kind of fix some of your questions in class, but and like I could help you one-on-one with it. Unfortunately, we don't have that situation. If you need one-on-one help with some of these, you're going to have to contact me. Remember, you can go to my office hours. But instead, I'm just going to work out question number one from your worksheet, and then we won't have you answer that one on the, maybe I'll still have you answer that one on the homework just to practice typing stuff in. Anyway, all right, so it says use your calculator to find the rational roots, divide out the factors, and find the remaining roots and factors by synthetic or long division. Show all your work. Actually, I should say synthetic, long division. Also, we could do factoring, quadratic formula. Okay, so I went ahead and I graphed. And I'm going left to right, and the one on the far right looks like it might be the easiest. I think it's at 6. I'm just going to check by doing second trace value. And oops, second trace value, and then I'm going to type in 6. And yes, 6 is a 0. So at x equals 6, I'm going to take that out. Oops. Okay, so that one works. Now we have to find a second one, and these look like they're all decimals. So going from left to right, I'm just going to see if I can find this left one first. So I'm going to do second trace, and I'm going to do 0. And it says left bound. I have to go left of this point, I don't know, -4. And then it puts up a line saying, okay, we're going to start here. I'm going to go right bound, -1. And then guess, it looks like it's maybe like -2.5, but I'll just type in -2. And oh, it is -2.5. Sometimes the calculators will do this E thing, and I don't know why it's off just a little tiny bit, but this basically is telling you it's 0. So -2.5 will be our next one. But we can't we can't use it in decimal form because when we factor, we don't have decimals. So I'm going to change it into -5/2. But again, we don't use fractions when we factor either, so we're going to have to multiply both sides by 2. 2x equals -5, and then divide, oh, I'm sorry, and then add the 5, so 2x plus 5 equals 0. So here would be our factor. And if you have a factor that doesn't just have an x to start, like this x minus 6, you're going to have to use long division. I'm going to change color. I'll do long division in a different color. 2x plus 5. And I'm going to divide it into just this last step. I'm not going to divide it all the way back to the beginning, because what we want to do is we want to take out powers one at a time. So we're going to take this one out of the polynomial after I took out the 6. So I'm going to have 4x to the third plus 0x squared minus 23x plus 5. And then we're going to go ahead and divide that. All right, So we're going to divide 2x into 4x cubed. And again, if you can't do that mentally, you just go off to the side of the paper and you go like 4x cubed divided by 2x and reduce it. So that's going to be 2x squared. We're going to multiply that. 4x cubed plus 10x squared. I'm going to draw the line. Change the signs. This might need a different color. And then those cancel. We get negative 10x squared. Bring on down minus 23x. Do it again. 2x into negative 10x squared. That's minus 5x. Multiplying, we get negative 10x squared. Then I get minus 25x. Draw the line. Change the signs. We get 2x. Bring down the plus 5. 2x goes into 2x one time. 2x plus 5. Draw the line. Change the signs. We get 0. That one works. So left over, I have 2x squared minus 5x plus 1. So now we can try to factor that, but it's not going to be able, there's no way I'm going to be able to get a negative 5 in the middle because of the 2 and the 1. There's absolutely no way. So quadratic formula it is. Let's see, we do x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Simplify that. I'm going to get 5 plus or minus square root 17 over 4. Okay, so if I'm going to take that, and there's actually 2 zeros here, if I'm going to write those as factors, I'm going to have x equals 5 minus radical 17 over 4, and I'll have x equals 5 plus square root 17 over 4. Now, here's the tough part. So I'm looking over here, and let me just keep working through it. Okay. So if I'm going to subtract this from both sides, if I'm going to do subtraction, then I'm going to have to distribute that subtraction sign, and I will have x minus 5 plus square root 17 over 4. And for this one, I'll have x minus 5 minus square root 17 over 4. Those end up being our 2 factors. The other 2 factors that we had were the x minus 6 and the 2x plus 5. All right, let's think about putting these in order. I'm just going to, let's see, I'm going to see what this, actually I can just look at my graph. That was a way better idea. Looks like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not on the screen. If I'm putting these in order from left to right, it looks like the factor that gave me negative 5/2 is going to be the first one. And I said this on your notes video, but the reason why we're putting them left to right is so that when you type your answers in the computer, they match the order that I put them in. It was the only order that I could think that would make sense. Usually, I don't have a problem if they're in a different order. It's just, since the computer is grading it, we're just going to all make them go left to right. So f of x equals, so I'll have my 2x plus 5 first, and then I've got one of these, and if I look before I made them into factors, the one that has subtraction is going to be the smaller one. So this factor right underneath it is going to be the next one. And then the next one will be the other factor, x minus 5 minus square square 17 over 4. And then x minus 6. Okay, so this is what I think my answer is. So what I did was I typed that into my graphing calculator, and we're going to graph both of them at the same time to make sure that they are indeed equal. And because I'm graphing things with radicals, that makes the graphing calculator go slower. Now, if you have a black and white calculator, or not black, I guess it's not really black and white, but the ones that don't have color, probably using Desmos would be easier for you. I like to use the graphing calculator for examples because, you know, you can't really use Desmos on a lot of things. Hopefully in the future we can, but for like tests and stuff, just thinking if you couldn't use it, at least you know how to use your graphing calculator. Okay, to me it does not look like it lines up exactly, but I promise you I did all my work correctly. So I'm going to go to the table, and I definitely can tell it does not line up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Desmos, and I'm going to give you an example of something that's happening. Okay, so I paused the video so I could just go ahead and type everything into Desmos so that I didn't waste video time doing that. So I typed in the original question, and then I typed in what we got when we factored everything and put it into linear factors, and I put a slider in. I put an a value up front because what I want to remind you about is that if we have a stretch or a shrink, I'm going to play around with this, it's not going to affect the zeros. It's not going to affect those x-intercepts at all. So in order to have the exact same equation and have them match up perfectly, we have to have a value up front that allows them to match up perfectly. So I'm now going to help you find that value, and then we can check it using our graphing calculator or our online calculator. Okay? And you can put on animation if you want to watch it. It's kind of fun. Okay. And as you should know that if the value up front is negative, it will flip it, but it still has those exact same x-intercepts. It still has the exact same zeros that we found. So it's that value up front. So what I want you to notice, go back to my paper, is that in the original question, there was a 4 in front. If I were to multiply together just my 4 first terms, I would only have a 2 in front. So these actually aren't exactly the same. So there's some sort of stretch sitting right here that I didn't find doing my work, but I do need to make sure that that value is there so that these two equations match up. So if I multiply together 2x, x, x, and x, I get 2x to the 4th. But I need it to say 4x to the 4th. So what number should go here? We should have a 2 there. So I'm going to go back to my graphing calculator, or you could go back to Desmos. But like I said, I'm using the calculator just in case you're not allowed to use Desmos in a future course. And I'm going to I don't want to retype that whole thing. I'm going to insert. So there's the insert button is right here. So I'm sitting on top of that parenthesis, and I'm going to do second insert, and I'm going to put a 2 right there. You could also just put it at the very end. You can just hit ×2. And I'm going to hit graph. Actually, I should have just gone straight to the table. It's going to take forever to graph. Okay, it now seems to be matching perfectly, but I'm going to go to the table and just double check that. And we look at the values, they are exactly the same. So I wanted to make this video because when I told you in the notes video you need to go on your calculator and put the original in and put the final in, it's because of this value here. And then this was a discussion we would have had in class, but since we're not actually in class, you're just gonna have to watch this video about it. There are a few questions on here that end up having a number out front like that. So please take your time and then come ask me questions if you have any. Especially during the office hours, it'd be way easier to explain it using words than try to type it all up. But otherwise, just send me a message like email. Thanks. Hope you have a great day.